We're going to begin here in America today because the state of New York has raised the legal age for purchasing a semi-automatic rifle from 18 to 21. The state is also strengthening the reporting requirements of social media companies to alert authorities to any credible threats of violence.
New York is acting, and we are taking basic common sense steps to protect our residents as our responsibility and our right. And these new laws today will ensure that we have more robust protections to stop people who pose a danger from obtaining guns.
The new laws were approved by the New York State Legislature only last week in wake of the mass shooting at a Buffalo supermarket, which killed 10 people last month in an allegedly racially charged attack. New York already had some of the strictest gun control laws on America's books, but these new regulations aim to close several loopholes. They could, though, soon themselves get weakened or even overturned. The Supreme Court is expected to hand down a major ruling on multiple issues, including guns, and the decision could challenge New York's strict limits placed on carrying guns outside the home. A decision on that is expected as early as this week. WION's correspondent in New York, Susan Tehrani, joins us again today, live from the Big Apple. Susan, half a loaf is always better than no loaf at all, but raising the age at which you can buy an assault rifle from 18 to 21, is that the best that can occur in a Democrat stronghold like New York?
Well, this is what happens when politicians want to go with the policy of quote unquote do something. Not to mention that New York has one of the strongest gun control laws in the country. And those laws really went into effect after the Sandy Hook shooting back in 2013. So Kathy Hochul says that this is basically ramping up those laws. It raises the age to legally purchase firearms from 18 to 21. And I will tell you that already obtaining a gun license and getting a gun legally in the state of New York is virtually impossible. It takes years to get it, and then it's the background checks, and then so on and so forth until you actually are able to purchase a firearm, because there are such limited gun stores across the state of New York. The problem with New York is illegal guns, and that is basically, if someone wants to obtain guns illegally across the state of New York, that would be in a matter of days or even hours. So that's one side of the story. On the other side, you have other measures that they want to take, which are these red flag laws. They're saying that they're bolstering those laws. Well, they were also in effect as well. The problem with those are these laws, when they do go effect, the challenge is having them as a legislation and then implementing them on the ground. And one suggestion for those were, just like, for example, you had those kind of COVID instructions constantly going to different organizations and institutions and telling them how to implement them so people don't fall through the cracks to get the vaccines. Then perhaps different organizations and institutions and mental hospitals and gun stores and different places should have those guidelines as well, so these red flag laws and these threats could sort of wouldn't get past them, and something like Buffalo doesn't happen again. But yes, as you mentioned, this is the policy of quote unquote do something, and this is what we get. We get the age of legally acquiring firearms from 18 to 21, and that's these semi-automatic weapons, by the way. These aren't pistols, which the majority of crimes actually happen. And I just want to add a caveat that despite these strict gun laws, New York happens to be one of the highest crime cities in the country.
Now, there is another body that is poised to do something, and that, of course, is the US Supreme Court. Tell us more about this case relating to guns in New York, about which they are about to, on which they are about to rule.
Right, so the Supreme Court is going to start handing down a number of rulings, about 33 outstanding cases. Usually it happens the Monday after Labor Day. We'll expect them this week. For the first time in a very long time, it's going to be a Second Amendment case regarding to New York after 2 residents of upstate New York brought up a case. In New York, as I mentioned earlier, after a long slew of procedures, residents of New York State are able to legally obtain a handgun for their own safety inside their homes. These 2 residents are challenging that to the Supreme Court, saying that they want to be able to have a gun carry permit outside of their home as well for their protection in the street, citing the high crime rates as well. So they say that, quote, carrying a firearm outside the home is a fundamental constitutional right. It's not some extraordinary action that requires an extraordinary demonstration of need. In New York, in order for you to be able to carry your handgun with a license outside of the home, you would have to show a probable cause of danger to your life, so on and so forth. So that is something that lawmakers are saying will probably be a setback to the current laws that they just passed in the state if the Supreme Court goes ahead with this. Of course, there is opposition to that. Lawmakers that support it say that this won't be without restrictions. There will be background checks and training if the Supreme Court goes ahead and rules in favor of this. It's safe to note that 43 states make it easier than New York to obtain a gun carry permit with a variety of background and reference check requirements, along with mandatory gun safety training. And polls and data indicate that they're not any less safe than New York either.
Susan Tehrani, live for us on the streets of New York. Thanks very much indeed for that. We'll see you again soon.